All right, folks, you're turning into the Racing Nation blog. This is Sean Yoder. I'm here at Barber Motorsports Park this weekend. I'm standing in the RJB Motorsports hauler in the back of it with Clint McMahan, the driver of the number 20 USF 2000 car under the RJB Motorsports banner, and Matt Strand, the chief engineer, mechanic,
crew chief,
all-around crew chief, master of time, space, and dimension, all that good stuff, and he's flexing for us. Going to turn it over to Clint here for just a second. We're going to get some backstory on how Clint has worked his way up into USF 2000 this year. It's a very unique story. Starts out with some solo autocross, builds into Formula 500, then Formula 600, and last year Clint won the title in Formula 600 last year, and that got him a seat in the RJB Motorsports number 20 USF 2000 car. So, Clint, welcome to the show, and give us a little bit of input as to where you came from and how you got to this level.
Thanks, Sean, for having me. Yeah, I started out in solo and got Rookie of the Year, back in '97, and then drove a street prepared Z, and then went to prepared, and then modified and different types of Zs, and then one thing led to another, and my buddy Heath McMillan put me in this CRX so I could keep up my division championship points. And whenever I got to the division championship that weekend, I was running a C street prepared car essentially in E modified, which was at the time it was the fastest door slammer car in SCCA. So there was only two rules to it. One, you had to be 1,499 cc's or over to be into the class and meet a minimum weight. Well, my problem was I was not, 1,499 cc's over. I was actually under that, so I actually got protested for having my car entered into the wrong class, which the guy said...
So you got protested for not having enough motor?
That's it. I got protested for not having a large enough motor. So the guy protested me for having too small of a motor. The guy who built his car called me up that night and said, "Hey, come drive my car." His name is Dwayne Dunham. And, Dwayne Dunham's got this Triumph Spitfire that you would just kill to drive at the time. I mean, I was 18 years old, and, here this guy is. He's got his masterpiece of a car that he's been working on his entire career in, and, he throws an 18-year-old kid in it. Lets me drive it. First day at Nationals in the car, I was in 5th place, and I think I dropped back to 6th or so. I can't remember exactly where I finished at, but that was enough to get Jim Murphy to notice me, which Jim Murphy's been in and around F440, F500s forever and a day since its inception into the class. And he said, "Why don't you come drive my car?" So that's how I got started in F500, is through solo. That year I won the solo national championship in his car. Later turned out that the car was illegal by about 3/32 of an inch too long on the wheelbase, which bumped me up to the next highest weight. I was only 4 pounds under that weight. However, I did win the national championship in solo in F-Mod by 1.1 seconds. And anybody who comes from a solo background knows how respectful 1.1 seconds at a national championship
1.1 seconds is an eternity in solo competition, definitely.
So that kind of turned the tide for me a little bit and pissed me off. So I decided, hey, I'm going to go get my own car. And I did. And then I campaigned my own car for a few years. Another guy come up and said, "Hey, I noticed you're pretty good at these cars. Why don't you come out and do some time trial stuff with me, because I'm looking to get into road racing," which his name is Jay Stroud. And me and Jay had been together for a little while and did time trials, and then we moved up to road racing. He got me a car to drive, and then he got one for himself, and then we campaigned that for years.
What series were you running that in?
I was running that in SCCA F500.
Okay.
We were pretty successful in it, and my highest placing, I've only placed second a couple of times. One was in 2005. Blew the nose off of the car, and the guy tracked me down in a straightaway aerodynamically, and I could not overcome a straight line speed. Lost by about a car length or so, and then went up to Topeka the next year, and long story short of that one, we didn't have a very good qualifying session due to the CVT clutching, and spent a little bit of time out in the middle of no man's land trying to get that CVT to work. The next morning, we came out and we were automatically faster than the pole was. So right after that, race started. We went from 12th place to 1st place in 2 laps. Unfortunately, we made contact with a competitor out there on the track, and so they kind of ended that whole thing. But at the same time, that was the year that I pretty much decided, you know what, I am so sick and tired of CVT clutches that we put a motorcycle motor into the cars. We were the very first guys to do that, and it kind of got notoriety right off the bat.
You started F600?
Yes, we did.
I didn't realize that you started F600. Yes. I had no idea.
Oh yeah. We were the very first guys in the nation to put a motorcycle motor into an F500 and try to make it work. There was lots of complications that came along with that. Of course, anything that anybody has never done before, that's just the nature of the beast. So then, kind of rocked on a little bit, and 4 years later, the Fred Edwards and Tom Edwards with Metalloid decided to, do the whole Formula 600 Challenge series. So we did the Formula 600 Challenge inaugural money race at Road Atlanta at the American Road Race of Champions. And then the next year we did a full season of Formula 600 Challenge. And in 2014, I won the whole Formula 600 Challenge. I swept the series every single race, which was not easy. I've got a teammate, Matt Strand, which is fortunately my crew chief. And needless to say, there were some interesting moments out there on the track where, especially even here at Barber, we went neck and neck, door to door for lap after lap after lap. And, it was just one of those days that just never ended out there on the track. I didn't know who was going to win, me or him. But that's what makes the Formula 600 Challenge so appealing, and that's where I eventually landed this ride. Because I won that championship, I was offered and awarded the ride into the USF 2000 series powered by Mazda. And, I was able to get a good crew up and underneath me with the help of Metalloid. And their gun line product. It was very, very overwhelming, the amount of support that we've received so far. Just coming out here with the big guys, on the Mazda Road to Indy is a dream that I've always had. I didn't ever think I would be here. I don't come from any kind of money to speak of. Matter of fact, I don't come from any kind of money, period. Everything that I've ever done has been done by myself. And it's just the nature of the beast. But that's here and there. We're here. We're now. We're looking to do good in the USF 2000 series powered by Mazda, and it's one of these things where I got reasonable expectations, just as anybody else. I'd love to win it, but at the same time, just being here is good enough for me. Just knowing that I beat all the guys in the Formula 600 Challenge, which is a very tough crowd in itself, is good enough for me.
How long have you been chasing this? You mentioned getting your start in solo. Was it around 18 that you started? How long have you been chasing to get into a professional level series?
Yeah, I started out in solo at the age of 15.
15, okay.
And I had to have a rider with me at all times until I turned 16, and then progressed from the age of 15 up until now. I'm 36. In May 20th, I'll be 37. So, I'm old enough to be some of these guys' dads by far.
Right. And that's honestly the main reason why I asked that question, is because a lot of people are out there chasing whatever their racing dreams may be, and they literally don't think they can ever get to where they want to go. And you've done it. You've stuck with it, and you've done it, and you've figured out a way. If you really, really want it, I think there is a way for anybody to actually make it happen, as long as they figure out the path for them.
Oh, absolutely. There's at any point in time, if you want something bad enough and you're willing to go the distance, you'll eventually get it. It might come, a little bit late, might come a little bit early. You never know what the chances are going to be, but if you never get out there and you never try, you never put yourself out there, most certainly if you never try the best that you can every single time, you're never going to get noticed. You're never going to be above and beyond anybody else, because everybody else is just, going through the paces. I think what sets our team apart, with Satellite Racing and, Matt Strand and I, we work together. We know these cars. Matt's been around these cars since he was 14, and that's what really set us apart. That's what enabled us to capitalize on the Formula 600 Challenge. It's because neither one of us really have a whole lot of money, but we got a lot of desire, a lot of heart, and we never stopped. There's been nights and days that seemed like they just never stopped. They just kept on going on and on and on. I mean, we've been up until 2 and 3 and 4 a.m. in the morning, and it's one of those things where if you stop, the other person's going to continue.
Right.
So you just got to continue on. So eventually it paid off. It definitely paid off for us to be able to run in the Mazda Road to Indy. In my opinion, is second to none. It's the number one ladder system in the world. People from all over the world come to race this. I mean, I'd say approximately half the people that's in this field is from all corners of the world, definitely not from the United States. So, I mean, we got people from Beijing, China, Australia, Norway. We got them from one end of the country to the other. So,
I mean, you've raced yourself into a ladder series that literally ends at the pinnacle of North American open wheel racing. I mean, it ends in IndyCar. It's the end goal for a lot of the folks in USF 2000 is to find themselves in an IndyCar, at the Indy 500 and taking that green flag and that checkered flag. Would it be crazy to see yourself, or do you even think of yourself progressing that far up the ladder at this stage of your career? I know you've been involved in this forever. Do you have that goal, or is USF 2000 just, you got to concentrate on what you're doing right now, obviously, but there's always, you're always kind of thinking in the back of your mind about the next step. Is there a next step in your mind, or is sole focus on USF 2000 and that's where you're going to be this year, and you got to make the most of it?
Well, there's a couple ways to answer that. One, foremost, we're just trying to get through the initial part of a brand new team starting up. There's a lot of complications with that, and RJB Motorsports and between them and Metal Alloy Gun Products, we're doing an excellent job in progressing. Going forward, I would love to see myself progress higher and higher. Again, I've got reasonable expectations of that. Also, realizing my age, even if I was the fastest guy out here and could beat most people, a lot of teams is just not going to really invest in an older guy.
It's tough being old.
Yeah, it is. Whenever you get old, it kind of closes some options off. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind getting into some sports car racing later on. And, if I could land a ride in sports car racing, it would just be phenomenal.
That was my next comment, was there's always hope as you get older in sports cars. It seems like there's really no age barrier there.
What was Christensen, 45 when he just retired?
45 when he retired. I mean, Paul Newman was racing Daytona at late 70s. It's sports cars is there for us who still want to continue on after we're out of our 30s.
Oh yeah, well, one of the biggest guys that I've met recently was at the Daytona runoffs and the SCCA National Championship, and his name is Dorsey Schrader. Sure, there's a lot of people out there that knows that name. A lot of people doesn't know, that guy's personality. He's bigger than life. Just meeting him one time and only talking to him for approximately 10 minutes, he'll crack you up and at the same time also inspire the daylights out of you with some of the stuff he says, and he doesn't even mean to inspire you or doesn't even mean to impress you. It's just the way that the guy talks about things in general. They'll crack you up and inspire you at the same time. One of the things that I didn't really know, my teammate Matt Strand was actually picked up by school by this guy a couple of times. They're real good friends, and I didn't know that up until then. And it's kind of an interesting deal. And one of the things that he said is, the guy said, well, Dorsey, why are you going to race the Daytona 24 Rolex? He said, well, because I forget how old he is. He stated his age, and he said, because I want to race the damn Rolex 24 hours. That's why, because I can.
And Dorsey's been there and done that.
And he's been there and he's done that.
When he says it,
oh yeah,
it's because it's there. You know, I mean, he's actually been in the car and experienced it when he's talking about it, that stuff. So it's cool. I've talked to him a couple times. He's a cool dude. Definitely a cool dude.
Yep. Yeah, he's a character, that's for sure.
So that was Clint. I'm going to turn it over to Matt Strand for a little bit, get the backstory on how Matt and Clint met. Like I said earlier, Matt is the crew chief on Clint's car this year. These guys have known each other for over a decade. And it's not normal, or not the norm. I wouldn't say not normal, but not the norm that you find a crew chief working with a driver, and both of them used to do battle as recently as last year on the racetrack. You were running under the same team banner, but there were really no team orders. I mean, when you guys were on track, you guys were going after it. It wasn't, you never heard over the radio, Clint is faster than you, do you understand? So I'm going to turn it over to Matt Strand. How long have you guys been working together? And, you know, just what are your expectations for this season? It's going to be a good one. It's definitely a cool place to find yourselves in.
Yeah, I mean, we did one race last year with the 2000 cars at Mid-Ohio, and we've made so much progress already. The way I met Clint is actually kind of funny. I was working for a team for Dolphin Motorsports back in 2005, I think it was. And he was driving for them at the time. He was kind of like a pseudo factory driver for the team. Mm-hmm. And I'd heard about him. I'd heard he's kind of crazy from the guys that I was working with in the shop. Okay, whatever. I'm kind of crazy. That'll be fine. Didn't realize how crazy he was compared to how crazy I was. So the first time that we met, we went to a go-kart track in Savannah, Georgia. And basically we played the game of first one to get kicked out wins. But everybody working there wasn't getting paid enough, so no one got kicked out. So we just did whatever we wanted. And something came up. We blew. They tried to call us into pit road, so we naturally just kept going. And on that last lap, I somehow got turned around, and the whole group of us had already left. So I was like, all right, well, I'll just come back to pit road. Come around this corner, and you come around the corner, there's a long straightaway. As soon as I come around the corner, he's sitting at the other end of it, facing me. So, of course, why not? Let's play chicken. Just met. So, we're playing chicken, and these things actually hauled. I was impressed with them. Until we got to about 1 inch away from each other. It's like, oh, this is a really bad idea. So, yeah, we stood the rear tires up on both cars.
Neither of you swerved?
No. Neither of us swerved. And then,
they're both shaking their head in here and laughing. Normally, a story like this, you'd be like, you'd be calling BS, but this is not BS. This is real.
Well, I'm laughing because I'm just thinking of my team owner at the time. We all went to a team dinner that night, right after the go-karts.
So you tried to kill your factory driver, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's perfect.
I mean, just to summarize it. So we go to dinner, and I'm at one end of the table, he's at the other end of the table, and we're both sitting there with, like, basically we have an undiagnosed concussion. So we're sitting here, and our team owner, who wasn't at the karting event, thankfully, I'm pretty sure I would have gotten fired on the spot. But he just looks left, he looks at me, he looks right, he looks at Clint. He asked our team manager, Jim Elder, goes, what did they do? And Jim just puts his hands up and goes, you don't want to know. Just let it go. They'll be fine.
Let them do what they're going to do.
And pretty much ever since then, we realized we're more or less like the same person. Because there's not many people that play chicken at a go-kart track.
And don't swerve.
And actually, yeah, nobody chickens. I'm telling you, it was really cool until about 1 inch away. And it's like, oh, man. I have no seatbelt. I have no helmet.
He's not swerving.
Nobody's wearing Hanses at the time, really. They weren't mandatory or anything, so we didn't have them. There's this little cheap pillow that just went flying off the steering wheel on mine. I don't know about his.
So that escalated from chicken on a go-kart track to you guys doing battle over the years. And were you both racing an F500 at one point, or did that not kick off until F600?
I was running 500s. I was a test driver for Dolphin at the time.
Okay.
Every time I went out, I was relatively quick. I ended up with a handful of track records, just driving 2 times a year.
Just because?
And obviously he knew about it. He's on the team.
Right.
And then I kind of left SCCA for a while. I was working in Grand Am, ALMS, IndyCar, just mechanic type stuff. I was pursuing that, going professional as a mechanic. And then I got tired of screwing with the CVTs and everything. Started up satellite racing in 2010. And my whole process is I know what it took to get my foot in the door racing.
Yeah.
And I know other sim racers can't even do that have way more talent than me. So I wanted to start building my own ladder system to get them in a real car and start getting their name out there and that kind of stuff. So I was doing that Formula 500 2010. I got sick of the CVTs, and I was actually looking at going to the Formula 1600 Championship that SCCA puts on. And then he called me up. He tracked me down. We kind of lost touch for a couple years. He tracked me down in 2011. Hey, I've got this 600, no more CVTs, just motorcycle motors. They sound phenomenal. You need to come out and check the cars out. So I did. I went to, I think it was Daytona. Him and another guy were there testing out the cars. I went.
Him is Clint, by the way.
Clint, yeah, sorry. They're there testing the cars out. They're still doing shakedown and everything, brand new car teething problems. I saw the cars and went, those are amazing. I have to do that. Wasn't a question in my mind. So 2012, I ran it for the first time, and then 2013 was the first year of the Formula 600 Challenge, and me and him were teamed up for that. I went out and somehow won the championship. I still don't know how I did that. It just happened.
Just drove.
I beat Clint by 6 points or whatever it was. And then 2014, just all the luck I had in 2013, I used it all up, and I had absolutely no luck in 2014. I had all kinds of things breaking on the cars, sprockets, a fuel cell issue at a couple times.
Silly things,
yeah. So last year, 2015, I really wanted to win the runoffs at Daytona. It was my home race forever, and that was pretty much the only reason I was still driving last year. I went out, didn't work out at the runoffs, tried really hard.
If you have not seen the Formula 600 runoffs race from Daytona last year, I think you can still watch it online streaming.
It's on YouTube. The Formula 500 race is on YouTube and
SCCA's website.
Yeah, SCCA has them on there too.
Yeah, if you have not seen F600 from last year, you have to watch the battle between Matt and who was the gentleman who eventually ended up Calvin Stewart. It is one of the most epic open wheel races you've ever seen in your entire life, and you'll get an idea of Formula 600 and what these cars are capable of. A lot of people will walk by them in a paddock and they just kind of look at them and they're like, it's just a little race car. They don't understand. These things are missiles. They're absolute rocket ships. And you wheeled, you drove the wheels off the car last year is what you did. And literally on the last lap, I'm not going to give it away, but on the last lap, you tried to drive the wheels off the car on the last lap.
It was a make-or-break move.
It definitely was. It definitely was.
But yeah, that was, you call it epic. I call it painful. It's perspective, I think.
Oh, yeah. Finishing second in the runoffs is not a bad thing. But you gave everything you had, man. I mean, what else could you have given?
Yeah. It was disappointing that I didn't win. It was really disappointing that Clint went out early on.
Had Clint been in the race and you guys could have worked together, it might have been a little bit of a different story.
It would have been closer.
Right.
But
Calvin's car in a straight line was ridiculous.
I mean, they were clocking our cars. Now, keep in mind, our cars only have a 10-inch wheel, so at high speed, they're not the most stable thing in the world, in theory.
Right.
They're clocking our cars at about 160 in the turn one on a 10-inch wheel. I mean, they felt planted to me, but like I said, that chicken story we talked about earlier.
I've driven some other stuff that you've set up, and stable to you is not stable to a normal human being.
So, yeah, they're little missiles, and they're entertaining. But last year, 2015, I wanted to kind of tone back off my driving because we're putting the sim racers in the car now, trying to do that ladder system I talked about earlier. Finally,
and F600 is actually considered. At least the F600 Championship is the path into USF 2000.
It's an unofficial scholarship. IndyCar doesn't officially recognize it as a feeder series because of the SCCA sanctioning.
Right.
But if you win the championship in the Formula 600 Challenge, you get a scholarship to USF 2000 through Metalloid and everything that Fred and Tom Edwards are putting together.
And that's what you're on this year, correct, Clint?
Yes,
That's what I thought.
Yeah, he's running the first scholarship, essentially. And we have 2 drivers next year, Sven DeVries, who we moved out of sim racing, and Caitlin Melton, who we just met last year. We're at a kart track, just screwing around in between race days, and this girl goes out and just absolutely annihilates me and Clint, which does not happen. So I went and finally tracked her down, and she has to be in one of our cars. She's another one, doesn't really have the money kind of thing, so we're working with her. She's going to run the series also alongside Sven. We're going to be pretty strong for the challenge this year, so I'm excited. The
driver talent is definitely there, and Clint, the wrenching knowledge is definitely there with you, Matt. It's going to be a strong package for RJB this year. Thanks for taking the time to join us on the Racing Nation blog. This is Sean Yoder. We're live from Barber Motorsports Park. Take a look at RJB. Take a look at USF 2000 this year. It's going to be a very exciting series. Also, like I said, take a look at F600. It's definitely something to check out. And that race from the runoffs last year that you can find on SCCA's website is one you need to watch. If you're a racing fan, don't care what kind of racing fan, that's one you need to check out. Again, this has been the Racing Nation blog. I'm Sean Yoder. Don't forget to tune in next time. Y'all have a good day.